December 21st, 1988. Pan Am Flight 103 takes off from Heathrow, London, en route to JFK, New York. Flies north into the night sky, gets to a speed of about 470 miles an hour, crests at 31,000 feet, when an explosion occurs. A hole is blown into the side of that ship that immediately destroys all navigation, all controls, all communication, any ability to fly this plane at all. In a matter of seconds, the plane begins to self-destruct. The entire front third of the cabin breaks off, careens off to the right-hand side, smashes one of the engines, and it falls off as well. The remainder of the flight continues to fall straight down. People are ejected out into the night sky, 45 degrees below zero. It proceeds to crash to the ground in Lockerbie, Scotland. Pieces of that flight are 1/2 mile apart. 270 people die, the entire crew, all of the passengers, 11 unfortunate souls were on the ground in Lockerbie, including a family in which their young son took his bike and went across the street to have his bicycle fixed by a neighbor, and the rest of his family died. In addition, 35 members of Syracuse University who had spent a semester abroad and were returning for the holidays. 7 months later, our family, my wife and I, my almost 7-year-old daughter, my almost 4-year-old daughter, and Granny, are planning our first trip to Disney World. It's going to be an exciting trip. It's going to be a fascinating time. The kids, the girls can't wait to go to Disney World. They have breakfast with Minnie and Mickey, and they're excited to go. And one night, I'm putting my oldest daughter, Lindsay, a very perceptive, early reader, bright young girl, to bed, and I say goodnight to her, and I start to leave her room, and she says, "Daddy, will the plane crash?" And I return to her and I say, "Lindsay, absolutely not. The plane is not going to crash. Your mom and I have flown all over the world. We've been to Europe many times. In fact, it's going to be wonderful. You'll see when we take that plane up and you are above the clouds. It's so smooth. It's wonderful. It's fantastic." I think she's reassured. I kiss her goodnight. I start to leave, and she says, "Why are there terrorists?" Now, this question I don't have an answer for. I can't reassure her in the same way that I can that the flight is going to be safe. And I return to her bed, completely useless as far as my response, and I say to her, "You trust Mom and I. It's absolutely fine. We would never, ever put you at danger. You are going to be fine, and we are going to have a great trip and enjoy Disney World." And because she's 7, she accepts that. And we make our flight to Disney World, and we get on board, and she's not necessarily too nervous at all. And once we've taken off, and we get above those clouds, and she sees how wonderful it is, and she's got her Disney coloring books, and her sister's 4 years old and enjoying the flight. It's fantastic. And we go to Disney World, and we have an exceptional time. We spend 8 days going to Splash Mountain and on the teacups, and we have breakfast with Disney and Goofy and Pluto and everyone, and they're wearing silly hats, and the entire experience is fantastic. But somehow, I know that the long arm of terrorism has reached across thousands of miles and taken something from my daughter's first experience of flying and of going to Disney World. 12 years later, that same daughter is now a sophomore at Northwestern University. She's supposed to leave on her flight at 6 a.m. on Friday, September 14th, 2001. In which the long arm of terrorism has once again reached across thousands of miles, destroyed lives, and entered our life as well. we, we think about this and we decide that no, we're not going to put her on that flight. We get in the car and we drive 900 miles to Evanston, Illinois, and we spend a day and we drive all the way back because we can't believe that somehow in this modern world, the world is so small, and the answers that I have for those kinds of questions are so inadequate that whether she was 7 or whether she was 18, I could never say to her that there are people that will do anything. There are people who will take any kind of activity, effort, sacrifice themselves and destroy innocent people in order to achieve their goals. So here we are in 2001, experiencing the tragedy of Lockerbie, and 12 years later in New York City, and realizing that somehow all of our lives and our small lives in Oxford, Connecticut are still affected by that. And to this day, if someone asks me that question, I don't have an adequate answer to why is there terrorism.